everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Voice of the Marketeer. Today on the show, I have with me Sandeep John, who is a friend, but more importantly, an exceptional marketing leader based out of India. Sandeep heads up marketing and strategy at Prismforce, which is the only vertical software as a service solution for tech services. But Sandeep has also spent a good part of his last decade immersed in SaaS, working with companies like Freshworks, Outplay, and DataTracks. His expertise lies not only in navigating complexities of the SaaS landscape, but also in driving growth and innovation. As I see it, I think Sandeep is not just a seasoned executive in marketing, but today also a mentor, investor, and a growth advisor to several startups in India, and has a passion for building and scaling marketing teams. In a parallel world, he also volunteers his time for a men's mental health channel called Man.up.now. And as recent as last month, he was voted by the Revenue Marketing Alliance as one of the top 18 marketeers to watch out for this year. Well, Sandeep, absolute pleasure to have you join me on this kickoff episode. And thank you so much for taking the time to do this.
Thank you, Nandita. I couldn't have summarized my own profile better, but thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Great to be talking to a friend, of course.
So, Sandeep, just to kick it off, I have a very obvious top of mind question, but just knowing your journey and your professional career so far, I know you didn't really have a conventional start in marketing because you were, primarily into sales, and that was sort of your, forte. So I want you to maybe take us back a little bit to the beginning of your marketing journey and really how the whole pivot from sales to marketing happened for you.
Yeah. I think for me, as you said, I think all my life, actually, I started my career in manufacturing. So I was actually in shop floor, almost the most, I didn't like it at all. I think it was just me. Came back, did an MBA, came back, did sales. I was doing sales for a considerable amount of time. But I was fortunate enough in one of the companies, DataTracks, the company that you mentioned earlier on, where I had the opportunity of working from the ground up. So it was literally me and my CEO. And I had to do everything, right? From figuring out, creating the website, writing content for the website, figuring out. Back in the day, we never knew what was positioning, what was messaging, nothing. We just think, okay, who is our customer? How do we write this content that's relevant to them? I mean, we've got terms for it nowadays, but back then we had nothing. So that early glimpse of creating all of them, of course, I had to go and close the deal as well. So I had to do almost the full cycle of everything you had to do rep back in the day. And that's when that early bug of, hey, this is fun, this is interesting, this is also challenging. It's not like sales isn't challenging. It's very different phase of life. In fact, my earliest journey in the SaaS world obviously comes from my experience in Freshworks, where I was actually hired to run the SDR team. That was my first role. And Freshworks, for a better word, do some of the best marketing that's out there. And for me, I thought at that point, I felt, hey, there was an opportunity to kind of pivot. Freshworks being Freshworks gave you some of those opportunities to sort of do that. And when the opportunity came, I was like, hey, if there's any company I'm going to learn how to do marketing, it had to be with Freshworks. And that's where it started for me, really. The opportunity presented itself there. I've done some of this stuff before and been very fortunate enough to work with some great leaders back in the day. So just took it off from there. And once I got in, I was never going to go away. And I think just my curiosity to learn and pick up new things. And I was just, okay, tell me this, give me that. And I would do multiple projects at the same time and really enjoy doing it. Sometimes people ask me, hey, you look like you're stressed and you look like you've got so much of work. To be honest, Nandita, I actually like some of that stuff. I actually enjoy doing it. And for me, it's if I don't enjoy doing it, I won't do it. I'll stop. I completely just full stop. I don't mind, we had a conversation earlier, the good kind of busy. I actually like the good kind of busy. It's really keeps you going, keeps you engaged. But yeah, I think early stage DataTracks gave me that first glimmer of what marketing could be. Freshworks cemented it for me. And then once I started doing things there, I never wanted to look back.
I think very well said, because you and I obviously worked very closely during our time at Freshworks together. And something you said really hit the right chord with me. I think Freshworks marketing and the work we did in marketing back then really helped us set those foundational blocks and understanding what marketing really means, right? Especially working for a software as a service firm. And I fully agree with you. But looking back to maybe Freshworks days, do you remember any specific moments, either during your work with campaigns or the different regions that you were working with? Do you remember any specific moments that were absolutely rewarding and kind of pivotal also for you in the way it shaped the way you think as a marketer today?
I think, in fact, I'll fast forward. I think there's something we did in Outplay which actually changed a perception of what I always believed in marketing, right? Like, I think, of course, marketing should always find a way. Marketing should be involved in revenue, should be involved in pipeline, should be able to contribute to the larger scheme of things. At Outplay, my CEO and I at that time were debating about a particular campaign we wanted to run. I'll give you the gist of it, right? So essentially, it was a campaign called SDR 30 under 30. The idea of the campaign, again, the inception wasn't mine, it was my CEO's. He was very clear about what he wanted to do to promote the top 30 sales development reps in the region. Right now, as a marketer, I'm wearing the revenue pipeline. I'm like, hey, how is this going to give us revenue pipeline? Anything for that matter, right? I didn't believe in it. I was like, hey, because the SDR herself or himself is not really my target audience, although the product does add value to their job. The ideal customer profile would have been the SDR manager or the sales leader. But we went ahead with that campaign because not many people were doing that. There were a couple of companies globally who were trying to run that initiative, but we weren't doing. But just sort of sheer faith of, hey, let's just do this for goodwill. Let's just do this because nobody contributes or nobody recognizes this group of individual as much. We did it, and the kind of voice that we got, the brand effect, that culminating brand effect we got because of that was just huge. Because people would just come share this on social and Outplays 30 under 30. It's now become an annual thing that Outplay does. Every year that we do this last year we did it much bigger. We had we did a whole global piece around it as well. The fact that we were just doing it like, hey, let's just focus on contributing and giving to the community that we actually serve without thinking about what might happen. Sometimes those things just change the perception of how your brand is, right? And I truly believe now brand drives demand without any, I can underline and say that statement. Right? As long as you're thinking about brand sensibly, I don't mean that you need to spend $1 million and go crazy on brand. That is also fine, but you can do it smartly. And all these kind of campaigns, we're not breaking the bank here. We're really spending wisely because we also know the larger context. It's not going to be like some great revenue come, but I'll tell you what happened eventually. We did this. We ran a couple of, and at the back of this, we ran a couple of other campaigns. Like I ran something called Cold Call Battle, which was basically based off what's his name? James Corden used to have this late show. James Corden's late show used to have a rap battle with two celebrities. Most often it will be him and somebody else, like rhyming, going in some word battle. I said, hey, why don't we do like a cold call battle, a fake cold call battle with two cold callers just going at each other, one being the prospect, one being the caller. And let's see. And this is a training exercise I used to run in Freshworks. Literally, it was just a training exercise. I said, just put it online. Let's just do this online, see what happens. We used to get like 300, 400 people just show up for it because it was so much fun to watch two people go at each other and figure out what's the best. People will comment and say, hey, this person was good. So we ran like programs like these, which were never really lead gen, demand gen based programs, but literally brand like, hey, I want to promote, I want to make sure that the cold calling as a word, which is relevant to the industry that I was in, is impactful. So the fact that my perception around how brand can drive demand just changed overnight with that kind of thing. Right? Even today, as I'm building stuff for the current organization, I always have a point of view on how can we use brand now to try and drive demand? How do we position ourselves in such a way that we're not just building like these thought papers and getting people to download every single and picking every lead, just give a bunch of this stuff for free. Show that you actually contribute and people will come to you. They'll eventually come because how much of content can you keep gated? One example. But yeah, I think that specific campaign or series of campaigns that came out of that one idea was something that just changed everything for me as far as brand is concerned.
That's incredible, actually. Thanks for sharing that so transparently. But I think I also want to slightly touch upon another idea. That's something I know you are very passionate about, Sandeep, but also you've been going at it for the last couple of years, including your current role, is really building out some kick-ass marketing teams. And I think I know you're very passionate about team building, people relationships and people management. Can you speak a little bit more about, the kind of team you've built out at Prismforce at the moment, and what really are those essential sort of building blocks for you when you are putting a team like that together?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Actually, to be honest, Anita, I have been lucky to have had the opportunity to work with some incredible folk. Right? Like, I think I do have some luck with hiring people. That's for sure. I've always had that. HR folks have always, even at Outplay, people have come and told me that. At in Freshworks days, also people have come and told me that. I have been lucky to be hiring some great people. In Prismforce, just for context, right now it's just me. I'm the solo marketer. It's a team that's going to be built. So yeah, if you're listening to this, when we do have openings, do come in and join. So it's fun. But I think for me, with regards to teams, I think there are a couple of things that always come into my mind. It's very easy said and done. People say, yeah, hire for attitude and all of that. It's tough to sometimes pick for attitude. How do you pick? Like somebody just comes in for an interview and you're going to pick for, do they have the right? I don't know. For me, a lot of the times, and sometimes again, this may work, not always in everyone's favor. And I always use a couple of the yardsticks, right? I go with energy. I go with what am I feeling on that call with them? How interested are they in this role? Like, what do they really care about? Of course, they are in that. You call them for that interview because you assumed for some reasons that they can pass the skill test. Like if they're content, that they've shared some content pieces with you. If they're designer, they've shared some. So you already know that. So I'm taking the skill part as a given. But what's that energy do I feel on that call? Is that are they trying to do they really want this? Is this something meaningful to them? Or hey, I've got like 5-6 other offers. I don't really care. This is one of the things. I'm just happy to just check a box. Can I work with this person? Is this person, am I able to give, is this person able to take feedback? Is this person able, sometimes I will critically review something that they've written. I want to just get a sense of what do they feel like? How is their response to this? Because I always believe that it's not just that you hire, it's not like you hire the superstar, like football example, you hire the superstar footballer and you expect them to perform day one. Like you expect them to go there and start scoring goals. Any Chelsea fans out there? I'm a hardcore Chelsea fan. We have a great team, but they're performing horrendously badly right now. Same context. You can't just hire rock stars from everywhere and just expect them to just go with the narrative and just go and perform. How can you enable them? How can you get them in that space, right? So I feel like, are these people, is there some opportunity to mold them? Because you're hiring them for a particular skill. And I always believe, I try to hire people who are better than me at something, right? If I know more things, I mean, when I say more, I mean more in that skill. For example, let's say I'm hiring somebody for SEO, right? I know the fundamentals. I understand because I've run SEO teams, but I shouldn't know as much more than that person. Like I should know enough, but that person should be able to tell me like, hey, here's +3 or +5 of what you just told me. That's when it'll stand up. Like, oh, okay, so you actually know more SEO than I am. I am happy. You are the right person because you're only building a team. Everyone's got a role, right? Everyone's got SEO paid and all that. And if I know absolutely everything about everything there, then how is that value, right? So hire smarter people for sure. Like always, I've never been afraid of hiring people way smarter than I am in a lot of things because I love people challenging me. I love people coming and saying, Sandeep, actually, this is wrong. It doesn't make any sense. Can we do this? And for me, it strikes, and I learn because of that. Like, okay, it's changing. Because, I mean, 5 minds are better than 1 mind as long as you know how to nurture them and get them into that space, right? So I think, number one, I've been lucky to work with some great people. Thanks to them for choosing me and choosing the firm to be with. And second, it's just that I just feed off energy. There's something there. I mean, it's not saying, again, doesn't mean that I don't work with introverts. Of course, sometimes an introverted person may not always come off with that energy, but I believe otherwise. There's some other traits that they have which will come off in a call, right? You don't have to be a super extroverted person and come and just, I can be very loud sometimes on a call, but it's not always for everyone. So I think I look for that general passion that they have in what they're talking about, they believe in what they're talking about. Not all of us can be right. And can they add 3 things that I don't know about something or some new learning that they have probably discovered or learned? Then, oh yeah, you've already got me hooked, and I'm interested.
That's very interesting. But I do want to just underscore something you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, which was also having mentors. I, for one, I'll be honest, Sandeep, I think in my marketing journey, the short journey I have had so far, I have also been lucky to obviously work with incredible team members, but I think I've also actively sought, the right mentors in the industry, irrespective of the business or the industry itself, the larger industry, but specifically within marketing. And I've kind of actively gone after choosing some mentors who could also guide me through these years of what might be, my best foot forward, looking at my trajectory. Has that happened for you? Like, do you have any mentors or coaches today that, you reach out to or speak with once in a while to get guidance on, anything on people management, on leadership, on your own career graph? Is there one such or a couple of people like that?
You mentioned this. I literally had a call 2 days ago with one of my, I mean, for me, I mean, I don't know if I'd call them mentors. A lot of them, I've been very lucky. I have very great relationships with all my former leaders, former bosses, literally, right? And they're almost a phone call or WhatsApp away. Like if I'm struggling with something or if I'm in a place where I don't really know what to do, literally pick up the phone and say, listen, I'm struggling. What's your guidance on how you would solve something? Literally that, right? And some of them are become friends. It's just extended beyond that network. I think one point from what you just said, I think apart from mentors as well, I think a mistake that I made earlier on in my career was I did not network enough. And I say network with peers, right? Talking to other marketers in similar or different places than you. I started that very late in my real journey. I started talking to people. I was like, hey, when I started talking to other marketers, like, oh my God, there's so much more you can do from this, from that, from whatever. And I would have, over the last few years, I don't even have a count right now. I would have spoken to so many people, just conversations, no agenda, sometimes no agenda. Like, hey, let's just catch up. I love what your product does. Tell me more. What are we talking? I'll tell you what I'm doing. And obviously, I always keep my DMs open. If any marketer ever want to talk to me about something that we're solving for, a challenge, happy to share whatever I've done and happy to learn, right? I think that was my fastest learning came from there. Like when I started talking to multiple people, I knew how somebody would run something, how somebody would do something else, and just pick up. And then a combination of that stuff typically would work for you, right? And I think that's mentors were important for me in solving stuff and trying to move forward in career and trying to move forward in what's my next step or a big problem I'm trying to, so how to navigate leadership, how to navigate systems, investors and all that stuff. Mentors came. But even day to day, are you going through the same thing? Is this just me or are there other people in the similar boat? And you just ping, and the several communities out there, you just need to ping, put out a post and say, I'm figuring this out. Has anyone done this before? Can you help? Always get 2 or 3 people ping back and say, let's chat. And I would do the same for anyone out there who's putting stuff out there, right? So I think both mentors and just fellow networking with marketers opened my mind to so many new things.
That's interesting, because I know for a fact that, because I also know you a little bit, I know you are, in my opinion, a master networker. I don't think you've ever had trouble walking across the room and striking up a conversation that might or might not directly impact you, but really just being more engaging. But I think networking 101 is a big topic on its own. I feel like as marketeers, it's quite understated how important it is for us. And I like what you said, but do you also think that, I think networking as such comes far easier to people who are maybe naturally more social or more extrovertish? And obviously it's a bit of a struggle for others, right? So how do you, help them sort of get out of their comfort zone, or what do you have in mind to share, maybe to get them to think outside of the box and engage in a networking session, or attend an event that might or might not, again, directly impact their careers, but might open up a whole Pandora's box of ideas, at least?
I think go with 2 frames of mind. I think if you're not somebody who's naturally networking or is networking savvy, to put it that way, go either with a specific problem in head. Go with hey, I'm trying to figure out how to run paid campaigns on LinkedIn. Has anyone ever done this before? Would love your advice. And there are thousands of, there's so many communities out there, and you can pick up 4 or 5 and just join. Most of them are free. Just join them and put up a post. Somebody will respond. The easiest way to start. Go with a specific problem, address it in a community, or I would try not to do it too much on LinkedIn because you don't know what you'll get. But a marketing specific community, very specifically, you will get something, right? Or if you just want to chat with someone, there are enough of like what I would call evergreen topics that anyone is always relevant at any point in time, right? You just put a post on, has anyone ever done ABM before? You'll have like, even if you like thinking about it borderline, like I want to do ABM, ABM is an evergreen topic. You can obviously bring about a conversation around Gen AI, right? Like you can, how are you using AI to help scale some of your marketing efforts? Has anyone used a bunch of tools for X? You'll have people, right? So even if you go with a specific problem is the easiest because then you know what to expect. Or if you just think, hey, let me just get into this rhythm of chatting with people, talk about evergreen topics. Just ask anyone, hey, I'm looking to get some guidance on this. Would love to help. Would love to hear from anyone who's solved for this. People will come. People will come and have that chat, right? It's harder, like you said, in-person events, talking to people actually is much harder than you would imagine, right? And you go there, like, how do you just break into a con? I mean, I'll give you the secret because I've done enough events as a salesperson, as a marketer. The thing is, here's the thing to think in your head. The other person is thinking the exact same thing. The other person is also like, who to network with? Who's going to break the ice, right? So the idea is like, just walk up. What's the worst that can happen? Like, okay, I don't have time right now. I'll talk to you later. Most people are generally nice. Most people are not very rude. Most people are never going to say, no, don't talk to me. You're never going to have that. In fact, it's harder to get rejection face to face. It's easier to do it over the phone. It's much harder to do it in face to face, right? So, in fact, if there's an individual marketer, somebody who you want to talk to or approach, just walk up and just say, hey, love what you do, blah, blah, blah. Would love to have a chat. I come from here. 2 lines, doesn't matter, whatever it's worth. If it works, it works. Doesn't work, doesn't matter, right? So that's the networking on the event side. But I think even if it's not practical for people to move out and go network and meet people like that, find these communities online. Ping me, hit me up on LinkedIn. I'll tell you at least 4 or 5 of them that you can go to and just chat with people. Very easy.
Interesting. So just maybe double tapping a little bit more on, looking at inspiration. Are there some brands that you are actively following at the moment, Sandeep? Just to get inspired on a weekly basis, whether that's on the campaign side or branding or social media, perhaps, or anything, just from an overall strategy perspective, are there some brands that you're constantly like looking at?
For sure. I think I'm very impressed with some of these are names you're very familiar with. Rocket Lane, for example, I love what they do. I really love their entire brand approach. The product, they had a community before the product was even launched. And the way they run their programs, several nuances I pick from them, and I really like what they do. I love how Paperflight, another company, an Indian company, how they position the visual is just so good and makes sense because they are essentially a content platform, and how they navigate through that, how they position themselves. Again, a much smaller organization, but how they're trying to hit way above their belt and the way they position themselves. These are just small examples of course, I'm looking at some of the giants as well in terms of what they do. But I actually find a lot of creativity is happening at this level, happening at the early, let's say, companies who are literally the 1 to 5, 5 to 10 million kind of organizations who actually have the wherewithal to try something, like go out of the usual box of experiments that they're trying. And I'm keenly watching, are there some curious stuff that some of these companies actually try and change. Dooley was another company I used to follow quite a bit. I don't think they do as much anymore. Quite a fun bunch of campaigns, fun stuff that they used to do. Keep you engaged, keep you hooked, keep you excited. What was the other? I think, yeah, these 2 or 3 of them, I just love visual representation, the way they run campaigns, the way they're trying to position themselves into the market. You'll obviously see them experimenting heavily as well. Suddenly you'll see one type of message and then you'll see them consistently going with that. They'll switch into some other kind of message. They'll change website copy ever so often. And you can see nuances. Of course, a lot of bread and butter stuff, I still go back to the old Freshworks days and I'm watching what they're doing as well in terms of like, hey, the way the rebrand happened a few years ago, how did that look? How is that messaging constantly evolving over time? Because we know the early stage messaging and what that looked like. How is that looking, right? So I always go back sometimes to and of course, I'm keenly looking at Freshworks competition as well. Zendesk, who are right near at the corner, trying to do a bunch of things. So good comparison between the two. Even they go through a rebrand. So 2 or 3 of these giants and as well as the smaller companies keeps me excited in terms of how they're trying to do, or what they're trying to do in that sense, right? I stay away normally from the larger, the Googles of the world, the Apples of the world. Because I'm not sure how much I can learn from them. Like I feel like there's a lot more learning to be had here. I also really love. I don't know if they're as thing anymore. Gainsight. I really love what Gainsight does. I think the early Nick Mehta used to have like some crazy stuff that he used to do back in the day. I still feel there is some element of that even today, despite the fact that they're very enterprise in their positioning and their marketing. You go to their website today, it's still got that very positive festival sort of atmosphere that they have, despite being an enterprise company. And it's a great story because it will also tell you that, hey, even if you are an enterprise company, you can still choose to have a voice, still choose to be relevant to your audience. I think he still makes those music videos. I don't know if he does it anymore. Like I found on their YouTube channel. So that's another company I'm very impressed by. Like I feel like, hey, if anyone wants to emulate a fun brand at an enterprise level, that's a great company to sort of look at. And I keep looking at what they do as well.
Wow. And just in terms of looking ahead in general, looking at the marketing landscape and looking ahead into it, where do you think are some of the more exciting opportunities in terms of the different areas within marketing itself, whether it's video or content, or maybe speaking a little further ahead, maybe even in terms of the roles today? I mean, I think back in the day when you and I started, Sandeep, there were very limited roles within marketing, right? There was a content marketeer, there was a digital marketeer who handled all the advertising and all of those channels. Today, when you look at the roles evolving within this market itself, it's crazy. I mean, the number of titles that have come up, right? So just looking ahead at the whole marketing industry, where do you see the most exciting opportunities lying?
Actually, exactly the last point that you said. At this point, I don't know if I have a strong point of view of what a future marketing team might even look like. Because like you said, what is it going to be about, right? Because today, AI tries to solve 50-60% of that. Like if you think of content itself in general, you can use like a Writesonic or any of the platforms available, at least get a good, decent enough first draft. Based on links, and they've got like this particular software has got a bunch of like, I use it, so they use a bunch of like reference links, and they create, and of course you need to add, you can't just use it as it is, you got to add more input. That's for design. You have, sorry, that's for content, and there's stuff for design, there's stuff for marketing operations. So I don't know, even today, I don't know, I'm still figuring out myself, which is why I'm not going crazy on my own version of hiring. I'm trying to say, okay, what are the core roles we need in our team? Is there an augmented future version of this team I need to think about even today? Like, what is the most valuable role in this future world? Like, is it going to be more on authentic storytelling, for example? Because even storytelling, the machine will tell you. AI will build like one. You say, hey, talk about this using like these 4 companies as examples. Then AI is only getting better. It's learning from everything that's out there. It will continue to get better. There's no doubt about that, right? It'll become as much sharper. So where is the human element, right? Like how much more, what's the human part in that whole piece? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. Actually, I don't have an answer there. But I think the really strong for marketers, the marketing leaders especially, is to figure out what is that new version of this marketing org you should be thinking about? What version of this is? Do you need more brand storytellers? Do you need more advertising folk in marketing? Do you need people who connect with the human element more? And what does that mean? I don't even know what that means. What that actually means, right? So if there are things machine could do, let machine do. But where does the human fit in, right? So I think even for future marketers, where it's a very confusing statement that I've made, but if you break it down in the most simplest form, I think it's just how can you add value to an org? Just being a content writer may not be enough. You need to be able to add that human element in story, because we all know as marketers you can use Gen AI to build some of that stuff. Where is that nuance? How are you going to add that, for example? What more can you do? So think about those, everyone who's like building for future, building your own skills. Don't ignore that, because the future version of any team could be very, very different. We don't know. Like you may not even need people like me. You may not need like true storytellers or true human. I don't know what you call them, but yeah, we'll have to find a version of that. Because that's, I think it'll go through a phase, Nandita, where, as you can see, it's always happening, right? We'll go through this whole AI automation, major landscape of everything fully automated. And suddenly it'll be about, hey, where is the humanness in all of this? Like, same, I think it's a very Gen statement as well, where the point is like, we're all in like in social interfaces and all of that stuff. Suddenly we're craving for human connection after a point. because it's not enough that we get enough likes on social and we're literally on media, right? So we're going through that peak. At some point, it'll go to that phase where same thing will happen with the business world, where everything will be fully AI up until a point, and then it will be okay. So all this is bought. So where's the human part, right? So I think for leaders to think of what that future version of marketing team should be looking like, I think that's the future, and start thinking today, because that future is not very far off. I think it's 3-4 years down the line, easily.
That's it's interesting you say this, because just last week I was on a LinkedIn DM, a one-to-one conversation with a CMO from New York, and she said something that really stuck with me. She was referring to a long series of email campaigns that she had received, I think just by chance of signing up for a newsletter, and her first reaction when looking at those emails was, this could have easily been a video. So and she, the point she was trying to make was, video marketing itself as a category, in her opinion, hasn't exploded enough, and there's a lot more we're going to see with video itself, especially now with AI having giving us that leverage to do so much video work, and at a rapid pace. So yeah, it's interesting you say this.
You brought that up, because I'm also on a part mission. Today, I'm in a new company, so I can't afford to do that always. But what I try to do is, can I eliminate meetings? Can I just record a quick loom, like a 5-minute loom, and tell what I want to be said in that thing? And like today, I actually canceled 2 meetings just for that. I recorded a loom very clear, because I just want to call for the meeting. This is what I want. This is what I'm looking for. Any questions, put them all in a group. Everyone asked, because the video, 3-4 questions were asked. It was solved. Meeting was not required. Right. So I feel like video could just be the future of communication. We'll probably be dumping emails, just like how Slack took over email, or Slack or versions of Slack kind of took over how you would communicate on email. I think video will just disrupt everything else, and they say no more email. Everyone's just doing video messaging, or working asynchronously through video. And meetings eventually, I think, will just, unless it's like a crucial something that needs to be addressed, the day-to-day stuff might just go over the fence, I think.
But Sandeep, I also know you quite well, and I know you have a natural appetite for learning. I think you're a naturally curious person, if I may say that. So, how are you then sort of planning to keep pace with all of these crazy changes? Because one is, of course, your own appetite for learning and curiosity, but the other is also kind of keeping yourself relevant, right, in this rapid evolution of sorts. So what are you doing? And share some of those tactics with us.
There are few people I follow on LinkedIn. I'm just curious, like generally what they post and how they post stuff and the stuff that they talk about. And generally I keep tabs of who they are, and they're always on my follow list, or I'm connected with them. And if they put something up, I'll spend like 2 minutes like actually reading what that is. I actually block 1.5 hours or 1 hour every Friday to just go into all the communities that I'm part of, just to read what's going on, like what are people talking about. If not engage, and I try to engage wherever I feel relevant. Otherwise, I'll just be reading about like resources, stuff that people put out there. What's the conversation? What are people talking about? Like what's going on? I feel like a lot of this is like, there's the whole dark social world, right? All this conversation is happening here. I don't follow Reddit as much. I'm sure there's a bunch of things going on there as well. But generally, what are people like? What's the buzz? Like, what are people? And I find that learning comes from there. Of course, I got the usual 1 or 2 podcasts that I've recently published a list of podcasts. I don't listen to all of them as regularly, but then if there's an interesting theme or something that people are talking about, I'll go in and listen. But to get what's happening now, like if I had to say what's the buzz today, is literally from community. It's literally from what's happening on LinkedIn social. So again, this is very few people that I follow keenly look at what they're posting, because I know they're not posting because they're marketing anything or whatever. They just have points of view on specific topics or specific themes, and then I'll double click and see, okay, what are they saying? Is this relevant enough? Oh, okay, this is interesting. And for the moment, is that I don't think it's nearly enough, but it's okay. Otherwise, there's just too much of information to consume. And then, of course, in conversations like these, of course, I'm going to go listen to the other interviews that you do on your podcast as well. Sort of go and listen to what other marketers are saying in the space. What do they feel is the future and all of that. And I think that helps, like keeps one apprised. I am subscribed to a bunch of newsletters as well. Again, I don't read all of them, but there are 2 or 3 the topics exciting enough. I'll just pick up and I'll just see what's going on. sort of read them, right? So I think anywhere between, if I had to stack rank them, community 1, LinkedIn posts 2, podcast 3, and newsletters 4. In that order, not always everything. Whenever something interesting just pops up, I'll just read it.
I think one other thing I might add to your list is there are a couple of very interesting Slack channels now that are dedicated to specific topics within marketing. There's a very active growth marketing Slack channel. There's one specifically for revenue marketeers. But I also know, at least these were a lot more popular 2 years ago. And I am still part of some of them. But I know that the quality of the conversations in those have also kind of tunneled a little bit, where they are only about sort of self-promotion or perhaps like, job postings and trying to get new candidates and things like that. But do you feel like, are there channels like this that are not adding value anymore and should be like stripped out already?
Yeah, there are. So there are a lot of these channels, right? Like, and you said, like you rightly said, a lot of them sometimes eventually become self-promotion, company promotion, and all that stuff. It's okay to a point, but and there are, like, within those channels, there are separate channels where you can just go do that, and it's meant for that as well. But not all of them are there, right? I'd also keep a eye on what kind of audience one has when one joins a channel. Like, if it's relevant to your profile, then makes sense. If it's like everybody in the world is in that channel, then you're not really going to get any value from it. It's just there for whatever. So I think one should just pick and choose. And I feel like if people don't find it relevant, you can always exit. You can always say bye-bye and go away. A lot of these are free. There are some paid ones which I think are really good. Like, I'll call out one as well. APAC Marketers by David Falam is a great channel. Like, I found it very useful, especially while I was working in the Southeast Asian markets, because a lot of the folks there were like, you have this entire Southeast Asia community, Indian community is also there as well. Super relevant. Even the S11s, the Indian marketing community as well. Like, whenever I've reached out for help in branding, or I'm looking at doing something specifically to the region, or specific like a problem I'm trying to solve, always a bunch of folks will reach out to me and say, hey, I've done this, happy to help, and all of that, right? I think 2 of them have been very useful. Of course, there are a bunch, like you said, the Revenue Marketing Alliance is there. There are a few other, Sales Enablement Collective, and there are a few others like that. I don't, top of mind, I'm not able to remember a few, but there are actually quite a few. But these are like, I'm remembering them because I'm also active in some of these. I feel like the contribution is both ways. They help like just understanding things a lot better. But yeah, like you said, if you don't find value, knock off, don't think. But I always tell marketers, spend some time on community. You never know what you will learn, what you will pick up, and the level of network you can build. Like, I've met several of these people literally through community. Like, I could talk to the head of marketing of a specific firm, otherwise not so accessible, just because I'm part of the same community with this person. That's the accessibility sometimes community would give to you. So think of it that, and don't go with the intention of selling, folks. I think the intention is just to network, understand better, build your own narrative, like figure out what you can learn from that individual and be willing to contribute as well. I think always walk into a meeting with something to offer. Never networking meeting as well. Never walk, even if that person is some 20 years senior to you, I'm sure there's some new thing that you've done or you'd like to share with them. Do share. It'll help them also.
That's it's interesting you say this, because just last week I was part of an online networking session for NEDs, non-executive directors, and the goal of that was obviously we would have breakout rooms and we would get like 6-minute FaceTime with 2 other potential directors and sort of exchange notes. And that one event, online event, lasted for an hour, but it was a lot to pack in, right, in 1 hour. The thing that I took away from that was there were at least 10 other directors who immediately followed up with a simple LinkedIn message to me directly saying, hey, we met here, but we didn't really get enough time to speak. Should we like pencil in another slot to just get to know each other a little bit more and see how we can help each other? And that for me was such a breath of fresh air, Sandeep. Like, I don't know the last time I was part of a community event like that, where I walked away like taking so much back with me, and still like I'm still sort of catching up on some of those conversations. Like, I'm still like following up on them. And there are so few community events left like that, but I think the ones that really get it right, they absolutely nail it. Like, they really nail the essence of it, I think.
Spot on. I think absolutely. I think if people want to connect post a networking event, meeting, and want to still have that conversation, they've done something right. I feel like we need to do more of that kind of stuff also. Like I feel marketers getting together, having those conversations, like even like you said, curated events, right? Like if just having chats, curated events, I think will add a lot more value. I think that's a good idea. Anybody out there want to start this? Do go for it.
So, for the next bit, what I wanted to do was, obviously we talked about a whole lot of stuff, right? But I know you're also, you love wordplay in general, but you also are really good with words and bringing them together. So what I wanted to do was throw some prompters at you and see how you could like get back with either a single word or a strings of words kind of response.
Okay.
So to kick it off, I think you're going to love this one because I just know you. Tell me, if supposing your marketing career was a song, what would be the title of that album, sort of representing its whole evolution?
Wow. Oh my God. Title of the album or the song? The album.
No,
Song,
the
whatever.
album itself.
Like the only thing, I mean, I'm just spontaneously responding. I'm not thinking too much here. Okay. You want me to think or just want to just go for
No,
it?
go for it. The first thing that pops into it.
The first song that came to my mind was "It's My Life." It's a song. I mean, the Bon Jovi song. I think that I'll call the album that as well. It's my life. The first lines itself, right? The chorus. It's my life. It's now or never. I forgot what the other lines are, but yeah, it's my life. It's now or never. I think that's epitomizes everything that I do in life, in career, and whatever. Right? I think you get a few chances, and when those chances come, you just grab them with both your hands. Doesn't matter always if it's right or wrong. If you don't go through them, if you don't experience them in life, it's not worth it. So just go for it. So I think literally that.
Very well then. The most underrated skill in marketing today.
Listening. Like
Okay. Okay.
I feel we need to do enough time to listen to customer. I mean, I'll give you like the business answer and the real answer. The business answer is listening to customer, listening to what's happening in the world and all that. Just listening, right? But I think the most important is listen to your sales folks. Like actually spend time listening to what they're trying to say. Most often than not, it's not what they're actually trying to say. It's between the lines. It's they're frustrated or angry because they're not able to close deals. But why are they not able to close deals? What's happening? What is it that they actually want, right? So I feel like as a marketer, spend time listening. Like don't go with assumptions of what you think is the right thing. Talk to your folks, talk to your sales folks. Just listen.
Well, the one word in marketing that you believe should be thrown out of the books already.
There are so many. Now, I feel again, this a lot of people may unpopular opinion. May disagree with me. I feel strategy is just overused, mashed up, bottled, butchered, thrown in the most craziest ways when we talk. And sometimes as marketers, we can get away with, hey, here's my marketing strategy. This is what I'm going to do. I don't know whether everyone truly understands what that means, right? I feel like it's a very overused term in a lot of the times. And I feel like we should, as when talking to company, talking to leadership, right? I think even from their perspective, a lot of the times leaders don't fully comprehend what that means. So I think as a marketing leader person, anything, find a way to break that down to the most simplest of forms to tell what this means, right? And I feel like that word I don't know what the alternative is, but because we've used it too much and we get I've got a lot of slack for using that word sometimes in meetings of like, what do you mean by strategy? Like, what does this strategy mean? And what does that mean? So yeah, I feel one word can be thrown out.
Interesting. Back in the day, I somebody asked me the same question. I think this was 2 years ago when I was big on growth marketing, as they call it today, right?
Yeah.
And the first word that popped in my head was optimize.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like, I cannot hear this word again. Please, someone stop.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, the best piece of career advice you've ever received.
Execute. Just blindly execute. Just focus on execution. Like it just said. I mean, it wasn't really about like plan. And I'm not saying don't plan all that stuff. Of course, do all of that. Important, right? But sometimes there's a lot of merit in marketing for just execution. And sometimes you need to execute multiple things to even understand whether something will work, not work, get data, figure that out, right? If everything is only in the plan mode, then nothing actually is fruition. And you can make hundreds of mistakes by execution, and that's still okay. But just blindly execute. I think that's the best advice I've ever received.
And the best piece of career advice you've actually given to someone?
Yeah, I feel the whole piece around like networking, like the whole piece around you're never too young, never too early in your career to talk to other marketers. Don't ever feel you have nothing to not contribute to someone else. Just talk to other folks. The learning is just going to be exponential. That's all. I think I've done that to few folks, and I think they've come back to me and they've given me advice on a few other things as well. So I think that's a great thing.
And lastly, is there one thing in marketing that you plan to teach yourself today or this year?
Oh, that's a very good thing. I feel like I need to, I think ABM for one, right? Like I've done ABM in some shape and form as a skill. That's particular see, one thing I've realized is that not all playbooks, I wrote about this sometime back, not all playbooks are equivalent. In fact, I've said they can throw the playbook out because you can't really use somebody else's playbook for yours, right? Sometimes you need to craft that version of playbook that's relevant to your business, your stage, right? We are trying to do some version of it because my company today targets enterprises. And so ABM as a version will work here, but maybe not ABM in its truest form. So, but for me, I think just to learn, double click on what are the different nuances that one can pick up. So I think I learn as I go, sort of really get down on how I can sort of scale the whole ABM piece around. Given that we have now GenAI to do a bunch of things really fast as well, how can all of this augment and work in the new version of what ABM could look like, right? Because again, I'm not going to be getting like a few $1 million to spend on ABM. So what's the best version of it I can do or create my own version of the playbook here to still make it? So I think I'll be spending a lot of time like reading, learning, figuring that out for my internal thing.
Wonderful. Well, Sandeep, we're towards the end of the conversation, but I have to admit, I've had such a ball just talking to you these past 45 minutes, I think. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, Sandeep. It's so nice to just catch up and hear how well you've been doing. But do you want to wrap this up with any closing thoughts?
Thank you, Nandita. First of all, like I didn't know we'd gone past 45 odd minutes. Just felt like some casual conversation, literally. And this is something that we would have done at Freshworks, sitting in the canteen over a cup of filter coffee. Literally, that's what it. I don't have the filter coffee right now, but everything else feels the same. So thank you for that. I think parting words is I think we touched upon this several times during the course of this. Secret to my success has been my curiosity to just learn. Just hunger to learn. It doesn't matter which stage of life I am, where I am in. And that's, if you know me, you know me. If you know me, you know that my world doesn't stop with marketing. My world is far, far beyond. And I think that just comes from the curiosity if I want to learn more about what's there, whether it's your role or whether it's other things as well, right? I think just be hungry always and be curious to learn, pick up new things, figure out stuff, because you never know what will trigger where inspiration will come from. Never stop that. I think that's the only thing.